What's up, headbangers? Welcome to another episode of the Talk Louder podcast, where we geek out on all things rock and roll. Hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. Leave us your likes and comments. You can also leave likes and comments on Facebook. Follow us on iTunes, Spotify, Instagram at talklouder_podcast, and of course our website, talklouderpodcast.com, where you'll find links to our merchandise and links to all of our previous 100 plus episodes. I'm Metal Dave Glessner, along with my co-host Jason McMaster, who is looking pretty fresh for a guy who got about 4 hours of sleep last night after driving home from a Dangerous Toys gig in Dallas. How you doing, man?
Or less, not to brag. I've been doing this, drive 4 hours, play for an hour, drive 4 more hours.
Yeah, you're not a hotel guy.
For a long time. Yeah. Well, if you're gonna keep going, then you're probably gonna hotel and then get up and shut up and get in the van kind of a thing, and go and go and go and go and go, and you wear yourself out even more and go even more broke in some cases. But it was fruitful. Yeah, we played Fort Worth last night, and the Toys did, and it was awesome. We were at the Rail Club, and it was a great time. It was a rager. We've played the Rail probably 4 or 5 times, and this was probably our biggest attendance. I don't know why. All of a sudden, people are just starving for music. And merch table was good, and my voice held out, and yeah, man, played a couple new songs. It was a rager. And for those of you watching this, if you were there last night, thank you.
Yeah.
It was good.
You've had the Toys out a couple times recently. I know you did that Monsters on the Mountain festival.
Yep.
Rail Club last night in Dallas, and so good. It's good to see you back out there doing Dangerous Toys. I know you've been busy with Dirty Looks, and you've got some gigs coming up with Igniter, and it's great. Broken Teeth as well. Yes, I just saw that. So great. I'm glad you're out there doing your thing and bringing rock and roll to the people. And I'm glad you were able to make it this morning to do another podcast, because I know I'm not a driver, man. So if I had to drive 4 hours, do a gig, and then drive home and get home at 3 a.m, I wouldn't have both eyes open right now.
To be clear, we had our buddy Brian Bowen with us, and me and Mark were in his truck. But, it's old school. Brian's our one-man crew, and the band and Brian, load and unload and, run the sound check and all that stuff. And it's a bunch of old dogs. It's, we're used to this shit.
Yeah.
The importance is when you're elder statesman and you're doing those long drives, is like, you have to think of it this: we don't sleep very long anyway. There's this internal clock that you kind of forget about, that like, oh yeah, I would be awake right now anyway. So
yeah,
but driving can be kind of droney, you know what I mean? So I'm I was almost playing a game of charades with Brian to keep him awake. So he wasn't nodding off, but of course I was the annoying co-pilot, that kept him. I was stumping him every question. He was like, duh, I don't know that. I was like, okay, you got, in original Exodus, you got Kirk Hammett. What's the other guitar player's name? I was like, you got their first lineup of Metallica. Who, you got Dave Mustaine on guitar. Who's the other guitar player? And he was like, what? How do you know this shit? Come on, what's the original bass player for Exodus name? And he couldn't do it. But he got some of them. He surprised me a few times.
The important thing is you're keeping his brain alert, and that's helping him drive and get you guys home safely.
Yeah, I guess we were playing Stump the McMaster. It's not the same thing as Stump the Trunk, but yeah. Stump the McMaster doesn't roll off the tongue very well. So,
well, thank you for being available this morning to do this episode, because we got a good one. We've got the return of Blake Ibanez. He's got a new project. Blake, of course, was the guitar player in Power Trip. He's got a new band called Fugitive. They're out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I went and saw them play their very first gig around, I guess it was middle of August. They played on some big metal festival in Dallas, and
That's just a few weeks ago. That's fresh.
yeah. And people listening to this show may remember my son is a huge Power Trip fan, and so he's in tune with anything that Blake does. So he told me about this new band Fugitive, and then he begged me to drive to Dallas to check them out. So we did, and it was awesome, man. I mean, they were great. I was telling you earlier that I hadn't seen a show like that since I was a teenager, just bodies flying everywhere, just total chaos, and the energy of that whole hardcore crossover thrash metal kind of vibe. And it was so much fun. And they were great, super tight, great stage presence. And Blake is just a really, really cool dude. We always love having him on the podcast, and we've been lucky enough to bump into him from time to time at various gigs. And he's just a really cool guy and a great hang. So we're happy he could join us again today to talk about his new band, Fugitive, on the Talk Louder podcast. So welcome back, Blake. Thanks for joining us a second time. We've got news to talk about. You've got a brand new band called Fugitive. I was lucky enough to see you play your very first show in Dallas. Me and the family drove up and caught you at the, what was it called? The Wrecking Ball Metal Fest or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was your debut, Fugitive. Municipal Waste was the headliner. Creeping Death was on the bill. Frozen Soul. So it was a big all-day metal festival. And man, the place was packed too. I couldn't believe how many people were there. So tell us, how was it to get back on stage and perform brand new songs for the first time?
It was amazing. It was really good. Felt great to be back.
How you, I have to say this, I like how you totally fucking lit up.
Yeah.
Dude, you really lit it. That was beautiful.
Amazing.
That was beautiful, man. You said, how was it? And you were just like, that smile, and dude, you just like blew up into a fireball. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead. Amazing.
No, you're good. You're good. No, it was, it felt really good. I had really missed being on stage, and I don't know, just the only negative is that my neck still hurts. So I got to figure out how to get that under control. But otherwise, it's good. I kind of expected that after 2.5 years. So it was felt really good to be back up there. I was like, it felt like where I'm supposed to be. So I've been playing shows since I was, I think, I want to say 12 or 13. So not playing for a couple of years was definitely weird. So
Metal Church had this like order form inside their first record that you could buy a Metal Church neck brace.
Yeah, we made neck braces, I think, at a Power Trip show one time. We printed our logo on some neck braces. I think it was like a limited item we made for this one show we did, which is, that's kind of what I need right now, honestly. Well, we played another show like exactly a week later, and my neck was like just good enough to go that day, and then it just started hurting again. So, and then it's been 2 weeks since that show, and it's almost better, but like when I wake up in the morning, it still kind of hurts. So I don't know. I'm hoping that it's just a matter of retraining the muscles to, be used to getting thrown around a lot. But I'm sure it'll readjust. Hopefully.
You love the pain.
Not that old yet.
It's called going back for more, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you're on stage, it's, even if you're in pain, you just kind of forget about it. You try to just.
I gotta say, when I was watching you guys play, I haven't seen that many stage divers at a show I'm going all the way back to like the early to mid 80s since I've seen that many bodies on the stage. And I was watching you because I'd never seen you perform before. Sadly, I never saw Power Trip, but, man, you got, there was like people knocking into you, running into you, bumping into you. And I'm thinking, man, not only is that got to be difficult for him to stay focused and play, but that gear, what if somebody snaps that guitar? Because you were playing a pretty sweet guitar. Was it Jackson V or something like that? And I'm just thinking about all the abuse you're taking and your gear is taken. But, is that typical? because I haven't seen that many bodies on stage in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it generally is when you come from our world. So, you know, like even power trip shows were like that. Probably even more people. Yeah, I mean, it's just part of the deal, you know. It's part of it's part of the show.
Have you ever had any of your gear destroyed?
Oh yeah, all the time. I mean, maybe not all the time. Like generally when we're on tour, I'll have our tour manager or my buddy Logan, and he'll kind of hold down my side of the stage because I'm really the only one that needs to have pedals in front of me. Like everybody else has their stuff like behind their, you know, on their amps or something. So, you know, even if I have like a wireless for my guitar, you know, I still have my pedals with, you know, like I'll have like our sampler for sounds and stuff. I'll have like, you know, my lead pedal and stuff. So, I need someone to watch over that stuff, but you know, people will still just jump on it and land on it. And, you know, I try to tape all the cables down, and it's just, you know, you just got to hope for the best. So I try to keep them out of the way as much as I can, but it doesn't always work out.
I see this like in my head. I see this like heavy metal cartoon of like, well, it's more like Dave was saying, it's the old 80s hardcore. I mean, there was a constant like mill of diver, you know, shit going on.
Yeah.
Old DRI shows in the 80s were kind of like that too.
Yeah.
COC, the early COC, like mid 80s, early 80s COC shows were like that. But the thing in my head that was popping when you were describing it between you and Dave was like American Ninja Warrior, American Metal Ninja Warrior, where there's just shit flying at you with your guitar trying to play the song and like getting through that, you know.
Yeah, it was chaotic, man. I haven't seen a show like that in quite some time. And
sounds like fun.
It was. I mean, it was a blast. And fortunately, I was, you know, me and my family managed to weasel our way up into the VIP section. And so we were in sort of the safe zone looking down on all this chaos. And I'm watching Blake, and there's just bodies slamming into him and people all over the stage. And there's a circle pit that's churning constantly. And it was funny, before Blake started playing, before Fugitive actually started playing, this young girl was sitting in the row in front of us. And she turned around, she looked at me, and she goes, "Hey, I love the podcast." And I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, okay, number one, I don't know this person. And number two, I'm thinking, man, she doesn't really look like the kind of person that would listen to this podcast. And I'm just thinking this in my head. And then she goes, "I'm Blake's sister." And I was like, whoa, wow. And she goes, "Yeah, you had him on the show once before. And, you know, we watched it and we loved it and all this." And then she turns around and there's another woman next to her. And that woman turns around and says, "Hi, I'm Blake's mom." And I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And my son, you know, Dash, is a huge Blake fan. So he's tripping out because he's going to see Fugitive, and now he meets the family, and he's just, you know, thinking this is the greatest. And I got to say, man, your mom and your sister, you could just see the pride on their faces. They were so happy, and you could tell they really support what you do. And I thought it was really, really cool that they were there and videotaping you constantly and there to support you. You could tell they were really super proud.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, they're great. You know, I'm pretty close with my family. They've kind of seen all the shit that's gone down the last couple of years, so they have a different perspective. They were really happy to see me back up there. So it was great to have them there. My dad was there too. So they all came out, and it was cool. It was cool knowing that they were there. They had a lot of fun watching the show. It was funny to get their review of the show. I think they only came they caught like half of the band before us, and then they watched us, and I think they left not that long after, but, it was just funny, getting their perspective, but they came to some power trip shows too. So they kind of knew what to expect, but I think they enjoyed seeing me back up there. It's been a little while, but that's cool that you guys met. That's funny.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They watch like if there's a interview or something, because there's not that many of them. So they'll usually watch that stuff, and it's kind of funny. I'm just like, you don't have to watch everything. but they like watching that stuff. So
well, you can tell they're just proud of you. And I think
that's
awesome.
It's simple as that.
Your dad must have been in the pit because I didn't meet him. So.
he was probably sitting around there somewhere. He's a little quieter. Yeah.
I just wanted to comment, them giving you the full support and love that you needed because you've been through some dark times. I want to bring that up too. I think that's the beautiful part because they know what you've been through. It's been rough with Riley's passing, and they've kind of been with you the whole journey, I would think, and supporting you and being there for you if you're close with your family. So that's even more amazing on top of that.
Yeah. I mean, they've always been supportive of what I do, and they've kind of followed everything. So obviously when that happened, they knew the gravity of the situation, and they've been very supportive. They've been really cool.
Amazing.
They were really excited to have me do all this new stuff. And, they know this is what I want to do and what I'm happiest doing. So I know they were happy to see me up there.
Yeah. You were born to do it, man.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it.
Well, that's cool that you have such a supportive, loving family. They were very sweet people, and I was happy that your sister spoke up. I would have had no idea.
I know, it's so funny that she recognized you. I figured maybe they just watched or they just listened to the interview, and but they recognized you.
Nah,
you're a recognizable guy,
for all the wrong reasons most of the time, but that one worked out well. Yeah. Let's talk about Fugitive. So, obviously you were on hiatus as a performer since the passing of Riley and basically the end of Power Trip. And then the pandemic came along. How long was it before you were able to sort of get your head in that creative space where you could focus on writing new music, sort of separated from the passing of Riley and some of the obstacles that you had to overcome? When did you finally have a clear head that you were able to focus on coming up with Fugitive?
Honestly, I really didn't stop that long. Like, I was writing for the new Power Trip album, obviously, when the pandemic started. I'd been writing before that for the couple of years before that, actually, while we were touring and stuff. And then I was writing definitely at the beginning of the pandemic. I think everybody, when the pandemic started, was, oh, we're stuck at home, let's be really creative. And I think then when shit got really bad, more into the summer, with everything that was going on just in the country, I think everybody got a little burnout and creativity dwindled. But I kind of kept going because it was really the only thing I could do. And, I have to stay creative. But obviously when all that went down, that was like fall, like August of 2020. Definitely didn't really touch my guitar for, I would say, a few months. I just, didn't really want to. And at some point I was just like, I got to keep being creative and keep working on all this stuff. I feel like I have a lot more to write and all that. So I kept writing, and, we finished all that at some point, I'd say probably last summer, and just kind of kept going. And then really the Fugitive thing happened because I'd say about last March, I got like a potential offer to tour with a band and play rhythm guitar. And it didn't end up happening. I can't really share who it was because it was sort of a contingency plan because they were having some internal issues in the band, and it was a really cool opportunity. But basically I tuned my guitar down a step to learn all the songs, and then my guitar was laying around in that tuning, so I just started, I was playing for fun, and then I was like, this is kind of interesting, I don't usually write in this tuning, I'm always in standard. So I got to just I started just messing around, and even some stuff I had kind of laying around from writing for Power Trip that maybe, I don't know, didn't quite work as well as I thought. Once I tuned it down a step, it was like, it felt right. So I just started writing some stuff, and then kind of the timing of that, some of my friends in town, like my friend Seth, who sings in Fugitive, he's like a really close friend of mine, and we were just eating breakfast one day, and I think I was like, "Do you want to do another band? I'm bored." So he was like, "Yeah," and he had actually, you know, he's in another band, Scourge, and he had really kind of come into his own as a singer. Like I'd heard, I think one of their more recent releases, and they did like the songs were like some of their best songs, but then they also covered the early obituary band called Executioner, that like I think the Tardy Brothers were in. I think Trevor was in it too. But they covered a song off like one of those songs, and I heard him kind of doing a more I don't know what you say, like more of like the vocal that I would kind of push for in the studio, like a more of a spaced out verse chorus type thing. And I could just hear his voice. I was like, this could work really well with what I'm writing. So, and then we're also good friends. So it was like, this is a no brainer, you know, this would be fun. Yeah. So I just was like, I'm going to start. And also I wanted just to start jamming with guys around here because, you know, like Chris from Power Trip, he's in Philadelphia. So I can't just go up there anytime and jam with him. I just wanted to jam, you know, I wanted to be in a room with guys and just play because it's been a while. So
where are you now? Are you in the DFW area, or you are?
Yeah, I live in Fort Worth.
Right. Okay.
And then, but you know, Dallas is like 30 minutes away. So sure. I come to Dallas on the weekends all the time, and sure. Everybody's sort of around the Metroplex. So the Fugitive guys are mostly actually in Fort Worth. So like Seth's in Fort Worth, Lincoln from Creeping Death, the drummer, he lives in Fort Worth. And then Andy lives in Denton, the bass player, and Victor's in Austin, but that's the only guy that's not basically from Fort Worth. So, yeah, I just wanted, you know, I think part of it too was like, I just want to do a thing with guys around here so we can have band practices. And like, you know, I miss the early days, you know, like the camaraderie of just having a band practice and drinking beers and like going to eat burgers after, like that. I miss that shit, you know. I mean,
it's a rare thing now, especially with the lockdowns and everything. It's like it's like it was not allowed, you know. But talking to other bands, you know, like Away from Voivod, he was just talking about how, and we talked to Billy Sheehan as well, and it was very, very similar. It's like, you know, in Voivod, it was Snake, the singer, built a studio in his living room, and just, you know, they made the record during the lockdowns.
That's cool.
People were doing that, and they were still trying to be safe because it was kind of crazy. But yeah, I mean, even then, I bet it felt like purpose, you know.
Yeah, well, this was way after that. So this was like, this was in March. So we were actually, you know, things were luckily kind of getting normal again, you know, like I'd say by Christmas last year, you know, that was kind of when everybody got COVID, and I think everybody was like, oh, this is not going away and we all going to get it even if we got vaccinated. So after that, I think 2022 so far has pretty much been, I feel like, business as usual for the most part. So luckily we didn't have to deal with that. We were able to just kind of get together and do everything normally. It made it a lot easier. I wouldn't have wanted, it would have been harder to pull off if we were worried about, you know, masks and COVID and all that shit.
I did some rehearsals during the heavy shit, and you know, like half the people are wearing masks, and luckily it was in a space where I could kind of be like down the hallway because I'm not going to sing with a mask on, you know.
No,
it was weird. It was just weird.
You're enjoying Slipknot for an afternoon,
right?
I was just gonna bust out some sort of Corey Taylor joke
with the weakest mask. You know, I just had the lamest mask.
I mean, a lot of bands wear masks now. It's like it's not just a Slipknot thing, you know.
Right. Mushroom
pretty
head.
Pretty common thing now. Yeah.
But you just to like harp on a point one more time. I miss those days terribly about literally getting in the hot garage and banging out new material, and you don't care if it's 105 degrees. In the middle of Texas when you're being creative like that, when you're juicy like that. So hats off to you for just basically keeping that old school alive when you're being creative. I listened to jump ahead, not fully jump ahead, but I listened to the Fugitive EP today.
It's awesome.
This morning, minutes ago for the first time, and just trying to play some catch up. And I hear all the cool shit that just even the artwork and the feel and the running order and the way it's put together, for some reason reminded me of like the old school EPs. Like I even hear a little bit of Celtic Frost, but I also feel like when I'm like, all of the accolade, the information I just laid down, I keep thinking of Haunting the Chapel. I keep thinking of that era of tangible release, and all of those awesome memories came back as I'm listening through. I'm literally staring at my phone, looking at the album cover. Whoa, I know this feeling,
this is familiar.
audibly, and just going, wow, looking at the album, And so, the cover song, I have actually on this weird Bathory record that has all the old demos, like a remastered version of that from '84, the Raise the Dead, which I thought was done extremely well, just to kind of play show and tell. This is like I'm sure it's a bootleg or something. It's gold vinyl. It's
nice.
It's have y'all seen this before?
I don't know if I've seen that.
I have.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I bought it in a lot. I want to say I got it from a guy in the Bay Area who was just getting rid of some extras. Yeah, I got a lot of kick-ass shit from that guy.
It looks like
anyway, I love it. And what would you say? What inspired you to cover Raise the Dead other than we need another song? What was it? Something that kind of did you in your head? Were you like this will fit? Or what was it?
Yeah. Well, thank you for all the things you said. That's really cool. I mean, that's the goal. I wasn't around back then, but I'm trying to
rub that
capture the spirit a little bit.
Rub that shit in. Yeah. I was gonna say earlier that Dave.
No, I'm jealous. Yeah. I'm not saying that in a derogatory way.
No, I'm laughing. I think it's funny.
I was born way too late. No,
didn't you do this on the last episode?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Kept reminding us how old we are.
I was
going to say earlier, but I bit my tongue, which is really hard.
You know what? You guys lived through the golden age, so you got to just deal with it. All right.
Yeah, we were around when bands didn't suck.
You're a little older. Yeah, exactly. So this is the trade-off.
I was going to say, Dave said, we weaseled our way into the VIP section. It's like, no, that's where the old people sit.
They just let you guys go.
Yeah, it's like he's talking about.
Come on. Right. Sir, go over here.
He's talking about the circle pit and the thrash
take this comfy seat over here.
It's raining bodies on the stage, and he's like, "Hey, let's go up there with the old people." It's like that. I would have done the same thing, Dave. You just didn't want to admit it.
Yeah.
Your question, so
the EP.
I just was like, I thought a cover would be cool because I feel like a lot of EPs or demos like that, they'll do a cover. I don't know. I just was like, I haven't done a cover in a while, I feel like, maybe it hasn't been that long, but I don't know. I that was one of the bands that was kind of inspiring me when I was trying to do this band, was like, I was trying to go back to like, what year did you say that Haunting the Chapel, when did that come out? Was that 83
the same year? Yeah, the
84,
same year.
Right?
Yeah.
84, so 84
it was between Show No Mercy and Hell Awaits.
Yeah, 84, like, if we're really getting specific, that was probably the time I was shooting for. So like, I think someone left a review on our Bandcamp and they nailed it. It was like, the year is 1983, and like, Discharge's first record's out, Motorhead, Another Perfect Day, Kill 'Em All, and this is what's happening. That's perfect. Like that's exactly what I wanted to do. Like kind of like the early stages of thrash when it was still inspired by the D-beat stuff, the Discharge and all that, and before it went really fast. I was like, the goal was to not go quite as fast as the Power Trip stuff. So not quite Slayer yet, maybe early Slayer, but like more Bathory and stuff. Like they play pretty fast on that record, but I just, that's such a classic album. I mean, it's so primitive. It's so, and the reason it's one of the reasons it's so cool to me is because it's the recording is so lo-fi, but like the songs are so, caveman and so classic that they just like, they've endured, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And I've heard bands record covers of songs off that record, like Sacrifice and stuff. And, like the song Sacrifice. And I don't know, it's just like, it's cool when there's a band where you can cover a song, and you don't want to cover a song where the recording is already really like final sounding and you can't do anything more to it. I wanted to find a song that we could take that was maybe, more primitive sounding and maybe add some, I don't know, some different rhythm to it, change a few little things. And I think we did that. I wanted to like make it a little different without taking away the original spirit of the song. So I think it, and I just thought it was a cool song, and I thought it would fit, but I didn't realize how well it was going to fit. Like it kind of just rolls right into it at the end. And a lot of people like, they'll like think it's our song, and I'm like, all right, I'll take it. I mean, it's not, but if it feels like it is, then that's cool.
It fits very well.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. That's a sure sign that it fits. So, So we should summarize quickly. So the Fugitive EP is called Maniac. Is it 5 songs?
Yeah.
5 songs. So, and when you were putting these songs together, did each guy come to the table with bits and pieces of songs that they had from maybe some of their other bands? Or was this a case where you put the band together, you decided on your focus, and then you all started writing cohesively as a unit?
No, actually, it was a little different than that. I just wrote all the songs. So I was just writing riffs, and I started jamming with Lincoln and trying out some of the ideas that I had. And then, for me at this point, it's just, especially during the pandemic when I really was writing alone a lot, it's just easier for me to arrange the songs and kind of come up with the whole idea alone. So like, I pretty much just, I demo all my songs on my, on GarageBand and stuff. And I have like some drum program stuff. And it was the same thing I did for a lot of the more, recent Power Trip stuff. So I just kind of put all the songs together and demoed them out basically exactly how they sound musically. And then brought them in and just was, continued to jam them with Lincoln. And then eventually me and Seth got together. He just came over to my house and we sat down with his lyrics and just went through and found all the phrasing and did the chord, tried to find all the hooks and everything. So it was pretty much like, the demos I made sound exactly like the way it turned out. Not as good, but they, pretty much exactly the same.
So for people that haven't heard it yet, I would say if you were a fan of Power Trip, you're going to love this. It is a little different, as you said, but there's also a lot of similarities. It's kind of got, like you said, that primitive early crossover hardcore thrash sort of early 80s vibe. And you produced the EP, is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of did the same thing I've done on all the Power Trip stuff, but I never really said I was a producer on that because, we had Arthur as our producer, which, that was his role and he's really good at that. But, I felt like I brought the same thing to the table. I mean, I was more involved in certain things, but I mean, everything from obviously this arrangement of the songs and to when we were doing the vocals to, mixing, recording, everything I feel like I had my hands on. And, I'd say probably obviously more than the Power Trip stuff. But I mean, in terms of like the way I was pushing things, I feel like it was pretty similar to what I did with all the Power Trip stuff. So, I've never really been, super forthcoming about that, but, I've always done that, like the way that I, approach arranging songs and the way I push for songs to kind of end up, whether that's vocally or whatnot, I'm, trying to show that I can do that with different people and, show that, similar results. I think a lot of people are noticing that about this project, that it captures a lot of the same spirit, and it's because I was pretty much just coming at it from the same angle, I guess you could say.
Yeah. I saw on your band, I think it was your Bandcamp page, that Jay Rustin is listed in the thanks, and Jay, of course, has worked with Anthrax and Mr. Bungle, and I think he's done some work with Steel Panther and some others that are maybe outside of the hardcore metal scene. What was his role, or what's your connection to Jay?
I met Jay years ago because our manager at the time is his manager. So I met him, and we've just kind of stayed in touch and become friends. And he's just I admire his work and the things he has a great ear. Obviously, he's very accomplished, and I don't know. Yeah, we're from a little bit different sides of the spectrum. But when I'm trying to figure out how to capture what I hear in my head, or and he comes from more of a rock background, and that's what I'm really into. So, when it comes to like how to get this sound I want, he was really helpful. Not necessarily, I wasn't recording with him or anything, but I could just text him or meet up with him when I'm in LA, and we'll talk about stuff. And he's always been very generous with his time and helpful when I'm trying to figure out how I want to get the drums to sound a certain way, or how I want to get my guitars to sound. He's always been down to send advice or whatever anytime he can, and I appreciate that from him. So he was helpful during this thing too. Like I wanted him to work on it, and we kind of ran out of time. Like I needed to get it done before the show, and I just didn't have enough time basically within our schedules. But he's been a great friend, and like I said, I'm not the type of guy that has to work with people that just have done stuff that I like. I mean, I think I can learn a lot from different people. So like if someone comes from a rock world where I really like the way rock drums sound, or the way the recordings sound, I bring that, if I can use stuff I get from that guy to help me inform what I'm going to do when we record drums, like that's really useful to me. But beyond that, he's just a good guy and a good friend. So I had to shout him out for
that's going to help you, whoever is at the helm, whatever you have in your head. If you don't know how to explain it to someone, and you know someone who can, right, you have ammunition to basically give when you're all there in front of the desk. I like the way the drums sound. The drums, it's super old school, man.
Yeah. The thing that I noticed is in Fugitive, there's moments where there's some double kick, and in Power Trip, that was one of the sort of the signatures of Power Trip, was that there was no double kick, and that's kind of kept it into that primitive sort of punk rock realm, whereas Fugitive still has a lot of that. But there are moments where there's little flourishes of double kick, and but yeah, I mean, if anyone that hasn't heard this, and I'm sure all your fans have already heard this by now, because why wouldn't they? But for anyone listening for the first time, if you liked Power Trip, the Fugitive EP is not going to disappoint. My son, of course, had it the moment it was released, and we've been listening to it around the house since the day it was available. Awesome. So, yeah. Are there any tour plans for Fugitive, especially now that the pandemic maybe is dying down a little bit? You guys have this EP under your belt and some momentum going. You going to get out there and push this, or what?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're going to tour because everybody, maybe not right now. I'm not saying never, but everybody in the band is in other stuff, or have a job, like Seth just got a new job. He was like off all summer because he was in between jobs and he was touring and stuff, but he's back on the clock. So, we'll do shows whenever we can. I don't, like I said, I never say never, but I think the idea with this band right now is just to have fun and keep it easy, so no stressful shit like tours, and, if people want us to play, we can schedule it ahead of time and, fly somewhere, or just book a good show. And that's cool with me. I'm still got other stuff I'm working on, and just trying to stay busy. So, I'd love to play as many shows as possible, but I kind of like also not playing a whole lot. So it's a little more special whenever we play. We have a couple shows lined up right now. I think there's some more getting planned kind of a little further out. But yeah, I'm just excited. It's nice to have a situation where I can play a show if I want to. And, we'll see what happens in the future, but I definitely want to get back in the studio. Hopefully in the next few months we can get back in there and do a couple more songs, because we actually we need a couple more songs to play a longer set.
I was just gonna bring that up. That was my next question. Yeah. For those who hadn't seen the band live yet, are you doing? I don't. Forgive me, I'm innocent. Are you doing any Power Trip songs?
Oh, in the studio?
No, I mean in the Fugitive show. Are you doing any?
No.
Okay.
No, I actually had an idea of maybe covering something, but the more we thought about it, I was like, that would be a little, I don't know, counterproductive. This is a new band. We're trying to introduce a new band to people.
I fully respect that. I fully respect that. But I had to ask, as someone who hadn't seen the band live yet, or just hearing about it, they're going to want to know.
Yeah, I mean that's an obvious question. We were curious too when we were driving up to Dallas to see the very first show. We're thinking, well, they only got 5 songs as Fugitive, and one of them is a cover tune. So how are they going to fill out the set?
It was an idea for sure. I had proposed maybe doing an instrumental thing or like a intro of a song or something, and then we were just thinking about it more like, no, this is just, I think that would be a little, like I said, just let's stay on topic here, but I miss playing that stuff. I think it would be fun eventually to do something, but I don't know. First show too, we actually really didn't have originally our time slot, because we sort of I reached out to Chad from Frozen Soul, who put together the festival, and this was I think a couple months before the show, maybe like a month and a half, and I was like, can we play we'll play like a short set, and he was able to get us in there because we played before Creeping Death, and we share a drummer, so it was like quick changeover, and so I didn't even know if we were going to be able to play the whole EP. I think originally our time slot was 15 minutes, and then I think it got bumped to like 20 or 25. So, we were a little worried about time, but it worked out. I think the day of the show, or a couple days before the show, they were able to kind of make the show, give everybody a good amount of time. So it worked out.
Yeah, when we were there, my son Dash he was super excited to look around in the crowd and see your former bandmates from Power Trip there to support you, and he kept pointing and going, "Oh, there's so and so, and there's so and so." And one of the guys that we bumped into was your former co-guitarist Nick, and Dash was super excited to talk to him and everything, and he got a photo taken with Nick, and we were talking a bit and telling him how much of a Power Trip fan Dash is and everything. And Nick said, we'll be back. And I don't know if I'm letting the cat out of the bag here, or I don't know if that was just sort of an off-the-cuff comment. You had alluded to something early in our conversation today where you had been writing basically what was going to be the next Power Trip album. So is there any possibility that we haven't heard the last of Power Trip?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a possibility. I can't really comment on anything yet, but it's like, just because I don't want to get the whole thing going, Well, people love to speculate. I mean, I've said it before. I mean, we worked really hard. I wrote a whole album and a bunch of songs, and we recorded a bunch of stuff. So that's kind of where we're at. And
in this conversation, you already said never say never like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
Well, it's a process.
Yeah,
we wouldn't do anything if it wasn't, if we didn't work really hard on it, put a lot of thought into it, and make sure it was perfect. We know what the legacy is or whatever, and we want to honor that with anything we do. I would never do anything that wasn't up to my or our standards, which haven't changed. If anything, they've gotten higher. So, it just takes time to see that through and make sure that everything turns out the right way. I don't want to, like I said, this is our legacy to uphold. So like I feel confident about, everything that may or may not be happening, but
Right.
I just don't want to really like say too much and get the whole thing going. But we have, I'm really happy with the music we made, and I know that when that day comes, it's going to be awesome. But I just don't know when or when that's all going to happen yet.
You're being
sooner than later, but I can't really say anything for certain. But
you're being careful, and you really care about it, and as you should, and you want to do it right.
I totally respect that. I absolutely respect that. The only reason I bring it up is because Nick himself said that to us at the show. And I love the way that you're, as Jason said, very careful about the legacy. I love the fact that you are focused on Fugitive, and even with Fugitive, you're making Fugitive the priority. It's not necessarily about reliving the power trip thing, at least not for the time being. You're focused on Fugitive, and I can totally appreciate and respect the fact that that you're trying to keep that momentum going and not necessarily harken back to power trip, at least not at this time. When the time is right, you'll know it and you'll feel it. And when you feel like you can do it justice and do it properly, if that time ever comes, who knows, maybe it won't. But I do appreciate you talking a little bit on that subject, because I know it's probably, you get asked it all the time, and I'm sure you're not ready to really offer anything conclusive. So,
yeah, I mean, I will say, I mean, Nick and Chris they're ready to get back up there too, because me and Chris, well, Chris forever, he never stopped playing shows because he's in a bunch of bands. He just lives on stage essentially. And I wanted to get in on the action because I was tired of waiting. So so that's why I started another band. But it's a lot of work to start a band. It's a lot of time and energy and money. You got to throw down some money to make all this happen. So it's like it's tough to do. And those guys have their own things going on. Like Chris, a bass player, he had a kid and he's doing that. He's being a dad, and then Nick's working a lot and he's booking shows, and everybody's been doing their own thing, but those guys they want to get back on stage really badly. So I'm not surprised that he dropped that little bit on you, but we're all optimistic, I mean, I like I said, I mean, I didn't really do Fugitive with this in mind, but it was like, the response that it's gotten and some of the things people have said has been really reassuring, cause like I never really ever for a second thought that I couldn't write songs without Riley or something, and I mean, I miss doing that. And, I really love what we did together, and I wish he was still here, but it's like, at the end of the day, it was like I was saying earlier, I had to pick my guitar back up again, so it's like at some point or another, you got to keep rolling. And, and everything I've done in the past, I feel like it's worked out, at least as far as I was concerned. I was happy with it. So like whether I was writing songs with Jason from Eternal Champion or, writing with Seth or anybody, I feel like I know how to do what I do and how to write the way that I guess people would say Power Trip wrote. So like, I feel good about what we're doing right now and the songs that I've written and how they're turning out. I don't think I would let anybody down. And if they thought that I was going to, then hopefully the Fugitive thing was a little bit reassuring. It's like I can do it with other people. I know how to do what I do, and I feel pretty confident about that. So
yeah, you want to stay true, but the people that are doubting, you can't worry about them either.
I'm not worried about them. I mean, like I said, the most important thing is if I'm happy with it. If I can't live with it. If I'm unhappy with it, that's just, that's the worst thing that could happen. So if I'm happy with it, generally so far, if I've been happy with it, then everyone else has been, it seems like, at least our fans or whatever. So it hasn't betrayed me yet, that whole thing. So, so far with everything I got going, outside of Fugitive, I feel good about that. So I'm very optimistic.
Well, we're happy to see you back on stage and back in the game, and the Fugitive EP is a monster. I love it. It takes me back, much like the Power Trip stuff did. It takes me back to that time, the early 80s when metal and punk were sort of crossing over, and it's got all that energy and that spirit. And highly recommended. Fugitive, Maniac 5-song EP. And, hopefully, this momentum will carry on, and maybe we'll see some more from Fugitive, and hopefully definitely see some more shows, because that show was off the hook, man. That was fun. I was 16 years old all over again, man, and it was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I love when people tell me stuff like that. I want to capture spirit. I mean, that's what I look for when I listen to music, like whether it's a rock and roll band or something like a newer band. I want them to capture a spirit of something, again, that I maybe wasn't around for, but that doesn't mean, that just means that it's the good shit, so I want people to say stuff like that. That's the goal,
Yeah, you want your music to take them somewhere.
Right.
Like when you hear music, it takes you somewhere.
Totally.
Somewhere tangible almost. Something that you can smell when you hear it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about. So if I did that, then that's a mission accomplished.
Let's talk about product. Is this Maniac EP, is it on vinyl? Is it on CD? Is it just for download right now, streaming stuff?
Good question.
Yeah, right now it's just download streaming, but it's coming out. You know how everything goes. It's just delays on everything. So, but it was, also basically we were doing it as it came. So like we finished it. I got the final masters back like on the day that we put it out. Like we got it like Sunday afternoon, and then like hours later I put it online. So I wanted to try to have it done and set up a physical release sooner. And then it's just, I was like, whenever this gets done is when it's going to come out. So,
right.
I was in touch with a label before that, and they've already kind of got things in motion. So $20 Spin, you probably heard of, they're like a underground metal label. They're going to put out like a 12-inch EP.
Yeah.
That will probably, I don't even know, probably early next year, maybe. I mean, the delays are so crazy, but they're going to do that. They're doing a tape pretty soon and a CD. So it's going to come out on all the formats, just kind of a matter of time. But I think it's in motion already. So that's good.
That would be awesome. There's nothing like physical product, especially for that style of music. That audience is one of the audiences more so than others that really appreciates the liner notes and the artwork and having the logo real big on the LP cover. So
the ritual.
Yeah. I was gonna say though, I mean, it never ceases to amaze me, especially nowadays, the power of the internet. Like people really like that shit. I think it's been off like a month, and it's got like 100,000 Bandcamp streams and all this, and it's like on Spotify. It's like, I haven't put out music in like 4 years or something, but it's just crazy to see how quickly things move. I mean, it's like there's people in the other side of the world that are big fans of the band already, and that like it's just crazy how quickly things go. So you can say a lot of things about now and then in terms of music consumption and purchasing music, but I mean, right now is honestly a pretty, and even if you talk to label people that say the same thing, it's like a pretty exciting time for music in terms of consumption, because the internet is so powerful. I think people are really eager to support bands. So like whether that's buying vinyl or a CD or tapes, or even just buying it on Bandcamp, like I've noticed that. And it's a cool time. I think if you look at the last 20 years, there hasn't been a time like this since things really went down for CDs and all that, where people are like really hungry to buy music and support bands. I think people are people don't seem to really try to download as much like illegally or whatever. Like, I mean, I think they want to own something and they want to support a band if they really like their music. And even if that just means streaming it a shitload, that helps, because it helps the band's profile grow. And like, it's cool. I was amazed to see how quickly it grew just through word of mouth and online stuff, like it's not the worst time to be alive in that sense,
Yeah.
Like
it's almost it's almost like the new generation of tape trading back.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, and you have all and the cool thing is that you have all the power as long as you want, like if you want to sign to a label, go for it. But I mean, back in the day, if you wanted to debut a new band, you had to sign to a label, and they could put you on MTV and you might be huge the next day, which was, one thing, but you got to give it all to them right off the bat. Nowadays it's like you can really just own all your shit and put it out on Bandcamp and Spotify. And if you want to have people help you and, give some of it away, you can. But if not, you can hold on to it, and the internet can just do its thing. So it's I'd say just the amount of control that people have now is better than it's been in a really long time. So there's a lot of positive things to be taken from the current situation.
I talk about that quite a bit in meetings with just other musician friends. I use CD Baby a lot, but it's very, very similar to any of the platforms that are, basically DIY. The fact that you can write a song and release it the same day
pretty much, yeah,
nowadays is kind of just fucking nuts.
Yeah.
But having physical and digital product and be able to set your own release date all through under one umbrella is amazing. And basically you are the record label. It doesn't mean you press a button and kick back and say, "Oh, I'm done. I got a new record out." You still have to work. You still have to promote the shit. And the internet makes it easy. You can be in your armchair and promote the shit out of a record, but the songs don't sing themselves. You still have to play shows, and like you said earlier, it's expensive to put a band together. You have to put time and money into it.
It's a lot of work. I mean, I think it's cool that people can just start bands whenever they want. I don't know. The flip side of that is that you get a lot of people starting bands that don't need to start bands. Like you don't need to be in a band. I mean,
right.
but then again, I mean, I say that I've been in bands that were terrible. So, I mean, you have to start somewhere, but we have a lot of bands now. So it's like,
I'm still in bands that are terrible.
I mean, it's just one of those things like, you got to start somewhere, but there's so many bands now. But it's weird because there's so many bands. And then at the same time, there's like, does it feel like there's a lot of bands? Like, it's like, when it comes to like what Fugitive does, for example, you'd think there'd be a bunch of bands doing this stuff, and there's not. So it's like, there's so many bands, but I don't know, they're doing different things. Like, I mean, there's a lot of death metal bands. There's a lot of, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff, but then there's certain things that no one's doing. I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird situation, but I guess it's good that that the floodgates are open, and there's no barriers to entry, I guess you could say. Anybody can start a band and put something out on Bandcamp or whatever. And
the resources are abundant.
Right.
Well, I'm guilty of being one of these guys that's just sort of overwhelmed by the volume of stuff that's out there. So, yes, on the one hand, it's great that there's no barriers to entry, but on the other hand, and that's what I think makes a band like Fugitive and previous to that Power Trip so special, at least to me, is if you're able to get my attention. I'm an old guy with a very short attention span, and I'm easily overwhelmed by all the stuff that's available out there. So if something stands out, then in my opinion, it's really good and it's really special because it rises above all of the other stuff that's out there. And Fugitive and Power Trip certainly did that. So I wish you continued luck with Fugitive and whatever else you do. It sounds like you're a busy man, very ambitious, and I love that you're young and you have the energy, but you have the spirit of an old soul like me and Jason. And
I'm super envious, by the way.
Yeah, we love that there's a new generation that's
power of
championing.
Youth is.
Yeah, I'm not that young anymore. I mean, it's funny. I'm reached the point where I'm the older dude sometimes in the groups that I'm in. I was always the baby in Power Trip. Like when we started the band, I was 16. So I just got my driver's license. I was like driving to go pick up Riley and stuff. So it's like I was always the younger brother, and now I'm kind of the old guy.
That's cool.
And,
That's really cool.
It's actually okay. And well, at the end of the day, it's cool because I've felt like I've been in my 30s for a while now because everybody in my band is older, and honestly, most of my friends are 2 to 3 years older than me. And now I'm just I just started my 30s. I'm about to turn 31, so I got some time left. You can't see all my gray hairs yet. They're coming in, but you can. They're not all like you can't. They're not all on the outside yet. They're like hiding. So
you're hiding your bald
not until
spot.
they all just get over here. Then it's like you can't. The cat's out of the bag. You can't hide it anymore. So
comb over. The comb over's coming. Yeah.
I think my hairline. I think my hairline's safe. I think we're good.
Oh, okay.
I think we. That's not
everyone. Not everyone can say
knock
that.
On wood. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
So, well, you guys are doing fine. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Oh, we're
hair is going strong.
Hair is dead. So it doesn't matter.
Hair is hair.
Yeah, it's dead. It doesn't.
It doesn't.
As long as you have it, that's the most important part.
I always say I'll keep my hair as long as it'll have me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way. Yeah, the rest of this shit is free at 58 years old if I have anything on top. What do you guys think about the phenomenon about guys who can't grow it on top? They just have it all on their chin hanging down to their nutsack.
I think they're just trying to get it wherever they can.
Yeah, right.
It's like they got to prove that they have the ability to grow any hair. So
yeah,
you got to put it.
They have to prove that they're not follically challenged.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you have no hair at all, then you look like that's the ultimate baby face.
That works for Blue Man Group.
Yeah, if you want to look like Blue Man Group, then that's the move. You want to be like super aerodynamic.
See, yeah.
If you're like a swimmer or something, maybe
that's important. Yeah.
I've always said that Lollapalooza was the turning point because when Jason and I were kids, if you were a metal guy, you had to have long hair. That was just part of the look and the culture. And then I remember Lollapalooza came along, and all of a sudden you had guys in hard rock and heavy bands that were bald. You had white guys with dreadlocks. You had people with mohawks. You had people with, do-it-yourself razor cut green hair. And it didn't matter anymore. All of a sudden, it just didn't matter. And I think I've always pointed to Lollapalooza as sort of that turning point because it was more about the attitude than it was the look.
I want to dive in and say that's a version of crossover because not just me, but I remember not to the day or the second, but when the punks were hanging out with the metalheads and they were coming to Watchtower shows and we were going to their show, a good example would have been the Offenders. They're from right up the road in Killeen, and they would come play in Austin every weekend. And I would hear about it all the time. And next thing you know, those guys are coming to see us, and we're going to see them. Next thing you know, they're inviting Watchtower to be on shows with them. MDC and the Offenders and the Big Boys and all that Austin scene started to just kind of be this one thing. If it was loud and abrasive
and rebellious,
it was fun and cool to just kind of have a melting pot of some kind. And the Lollapalooza thing, I love how you sort of put it in perspective by fashion, if you will, about how there was no trend.
No rules.
There was no trend at all. It's like everything just went, that's good enough, get along. And it's like I said, it was more about the attitude than the look. So you could look across the field at Lollapalooza and you could see the long hair Hesher, and then you could see the guy with the green mohawk. And all that mattered was they didn't look like normal people, and that was good enough. And they were here for music, and that was good enough. And that was it. Realizing when the hippies were also starting to get into metal, and you couldn't really tell the headbangers from the hippies at some point because there is a difference. Yeah. Or there was, and now there's not. So that's kind of.
I was going to say, that crossover is really important. I talk about it all the time with buddies of mine, from the hardcore scene or the punk scene. It's like that crossover is essential. You need the outside influence, whether it's in the music you're making or the shows you're going to. And I think the cool thing about the hardcore scene and I don't know why it's just the hardcore scene, but it seems like everybody, I guess now it's sort of called the subculture, but the hardcore scene, I think people that kind of filter through that, and people I've known over the past 15 years or so, just end up in all these different places, you know? So it's like, and it's this, like you said, it's like an attitude or an ethic. So people that start in the hardcore scene end up working with, you know, being in an indie band or being in a punk band or a metal band or working with a rapper or something. I mean, it's just, I've noticed that, and it always produces to me like the most interesting results. You know, it's like there's this thing where if you're more of a well-rounded musical person that like listens to different stuff and you're not kind of stuck in one box, that you're able to, I don't know, just reach into different places with what you do. So it's like, I've noticed that like the most interesting people that I know they all come from the, you know, some come from the punk or hardcore scene in some way. And whether they're in a metal band or they're in a, like I said, indie rock band or something, it's like, there's always something about that produces a different result. And I think it was like that. It seems like it was like that back in the day too, you know, like the people, like all the metal guys, the Hetfields and the Mustaines, and they were all, you know, listening to GBH, and
oh yeah,
they were, you know, Thin Lizzy, and they came from a different world, and that's what created metal. And I don't know, sometimes it feels like certain genres suffer if they're just stuck in that echo chamber, you know, like metal is one for sure to me. Like if you're just metal forever, you don't really understand where the whole attitude and the whole raw thing came from. Right. You know, it came from something before that, you know.
If it gets too clicky, it's boring.
Yeah, it's like the attitude, like that raw thing that comes from punk or, you know, something more just before that. I don't know. It's just I've just noticed that crossover you mentioned is super integral to good music to me.
Yeah, when you think about what I mean, Slayer, for instance. I mean, you know, they used to cover, as far as I know, they covered, you know, AC/DC and Def Leppard when they first got going in the garage. You know, they wore red and black striped pants and bullshit like that. And, you know, but they were kids following a trend like everybody else. They saw pictures in magazines and listened to their older brothers' record collections or whatever, and that's how it works until they find their own place, right. and then create and riff off of that. And you think about Suicidal Tendencies, and that's a fucking great crossover band because they're almost rock and roll sometimes, and they have this like swing about them, and they're fucking excellent musicians, and they can stand with any thrash band and any punk band and any rock band. And you know, they're one of those, they're the right breed because they were like so open to whatever was happening. In Southern California, I mean, this is where Metallica started, Suicidal, Slayer, and that just seems something in the water there. And I think the way those kids were raised, probably had hippie, dope smoking parents. It's California, dude. Surf, you know.
Yeah, well, I think it's the same way you could say that about, you know, New York too. Oh yeah. Or even Texas. Like,
yeah, I was going to say Texas.
Depending on what's the environment is, you know, Texas always had, you know, the punk rock bands too, and I guess you had, well, DRI was from Houston originally, right? Yeah, you had DRI and you know, punk bands like the Big Boys and whatnot.
And even the Dicks and Butthole Surfers and Stickman with Ray Gun. Houston area was lots of punk, 80s punk.
Texas has a really cool history, you know.
San Antonio had a lot of cool punk. Austin was contender, of course. I love being from Texas.
It's good. We got. I mean, we have a hell of a history, you know. We got everything from the 13th floor elevators to ZZ Top to fucking Pantera, and
it's unbelievable.
You know, it's like I always thought, you know, and even just growing up in Texas, and we were able to go to all the music festivals like Fun Fest that had just every type of music. It was like everything from punk rock to metal to hip hop to, I mean, and you could just be into everything, and you could really understand more about music as a whole just in, we always had that. There were always bands that just had a certain attitude, being from Texas. I feel like, and the bands I mentioned, ZZ Top, 13 Full Elevators, Pantera. I mean, right there, you just got a lot of bases covered.
It's like it's like our version. Fun. Be like our version of Psycho Fest or something.
Yeah, it was just cool. Even being, I was pretty young, and it was like I could see Cro-Mags or Bad Brains. I could see Slayer. I could see fucking Snoop Dogg or something. I mean, it was like they had everybody. I mean, they had Descendants and I mean, just like anybody. It was really cool to go and just see all these different bands. And then we also had Chaos and Tejas, which was like a punk fest for a long time, but they had metal bands and rock bands too. They'd have like everyone from Leatherface and Dillinger 4 to Bolt Thrower to Judgment and Los Crudos, and just like all different sides of the punk and metal and hardcore spectrum. It was pretty amazing, and it informed a lot of people's music taste, even that still play in bands in Texas. I think it was like got everybody started on the right foot.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, Blake, man, it's been great catching up with you again today. I want to wish you continued success with Fugitive and any other projects you're involved in. It seems like whatever you produce is always gets my attention. It certainly gets my son's attention, and we loved seeing you on stage. I never saw you perform. It was awesome to see you do your thing and watch the music come to life in front of me. So continued luck with Fugitive, any future endeavors, and it was great meeting your family the other night and seeing how supportive they are of you. And I think it shows in you as a person. You come across as a really quality dude, and I think getting to meet your parents or your mother and your sister, I can see where that comes from, and I'm just thrilled that they support you in all you do.
You're making me feel jealous.
Well, your parents supported you too. I know your mom was a big fan of yours. I remember walking into your house, Jason, and there's the gold framed Dangerous Toys record hanging on Mom's wall.
The bowling trophy.
She was obviously very proud of you. So
Moms are the best. Well, thank you for all that. That means a lot. I'm always honored to come on here and talk to you guys. I think it's really cool that you are generous with your time and you want to talk about anything I do. So I'm always down to come on here and talk and chat about whatever. I
feel like I learned. Of course, man, you're welcome anytime. I feel like I learn shit when I talk to you.
Yeah, it's
take it as a compliment.
Yeah, I love, we joke about the age difference, but I think to your point, Jason, we kind of learn what's, someone in Blake's generation, where the influences are and what they grew up listening to and how the process works today. And it's all interesting to me. So we appreciate your time as much as you appreciate ours. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for all the kind words too. I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, man. Well deserved. So
thank you.
We'll let you go. I know you got things to do. And we look forward to maybe having you on the show again when you've got something else to talk about. I hope to see you in Austin with Fugitive. The live show was amazing. So we look forward to that next time that we get a chance to see you. On behalf of my co-host, Jason McMaster, I'm Metal Dave Glessner, along with our special guest today, Blake Ibanez from Fugitive on the Talk Louder podcast.